Hello, you are listening to the OmniTalk Fast Five, brought to you in partnership with the A&M Consumer and Retail Group, Firework, Trigo, Sezzle, and Silk. Let's go on to headline number 5. So Portillo's is making its drive-thrus cashless, Chris.
Ooh, cashless.
You got to bring your card when you're getting your dog, okay?
Okay, yes, of course.
According to Restaurant
Always
Drive,
do, man. Always do.
According to Restaurant Drive, the chain, which has over 70 units across 9 states, stopped accepting cash payments at its drive-thrus beginning Monday, January 16th. The shift is intended to improve safety of the staff, according to Portillo's CEO, Michael Osenloo.
Osenloo, I guess, yeah.
I hope I said your name right, Michael. Which was quoted. He was quoted in Restaurant Dive. He said, quote, workers across the restaurant industry have been robbed or threatened at gunpoint or knife point on the job, end quote. Yeah. Yowzer.
The setup does sound kind of dangerous when you get down to it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Cash will, however, still be accepted within the walls of the restaurant itself. Jonathan, let's go to you first here. What's your take on this story? Poor drive-through people getting robbed at knife and gunpoint. That sounds awful.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of something no one should go to work fearing. Right. And, if you run a team in retail or in hospitality, and you think that's a risk, you do everything you can to mitigate it. So I absolutely get that motivation. And to Chris's point, their model is not all of their team are sort of within the booth or behind the screen, right? They've got people at the menu board able to direct you and, of course, trade you up as well. So they are particularly vulnerable. That said, I'm pretty sure that the real lead here is actually buried a little bit further in the story around what it does to speed of transactions,
right?
And kind of clearly what that does to the economics of drive-through, right? Not to mention the savings you get from cash handling costs and all those sorts of things. And so to that extent, if we sort of put to one side the safety issue, which is very real and I'm sure was the trigger for this, if we put that to one side, this is just another example of the move to cashless, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a bit consistent with the conversation we just had around digital walkout stores, right? Is all of these points of friction are being removed by technology enablement. And what that's doing to costs for these retailers is potentially very significant. I do think, by the way, there's a major social question around employment in retail. We shouldn't ignore how significant an employer the retail and hospitality sector is in the US. I mean, that's for another day. That's another question. Businesses have to maximize their profit. I completely understand that. And this is, I think, one of the major sort of trends that we're seeing, and here it is playing out again.
Yeah, Chris, what are you seeing here? Like, are your thoughts consistent with what Jonathan's saying?
Yeah, I think they are. And it's funny, I was thinking about that same angle Jonathan was talking about this morning as I was thinking about this too, because there's going to be a negative sales impact from not taking cash to your drive-through. And so it's got to be a big pill to swallow unless there's other operational efficiencies that you're thinking you're going to gain from this. My question is really like, where does this go next? I think we're going to see more of it. A lot of the quick serve restaurants have gone to this model, especially in the pandemic, as curbside pickup and everything else has become just that much more prevalent. Like Chick-fil-A has I feel like 600 people outside in its drive-through lanes, right? As an example. But the question for me is like, do governments continue to allow it? Like, does it push into the store? Did the store itself only become cashless? And do the governments locally allow this to happen? We know in New York, you were required to still take cash, which is going to be an important part of the rollout story, potentially with, the Wakefern, depending on where they start to deploy those stores and everything. So that's my thing. I mean, I think we'll see more of this, but there's a lot of things that we have as a society have to come to grips with for us to do this in the right way.
Michael, any thoughts here from your side?
No, I mean, I agree with everything Jonathan and Chris just said. I think just from a safety standpoint, we obviously talk to senior leaders in the retail business. They're all hyper-focused on employee safety to a point where 2 CEOs recently separately had told me, we tell the employees to give them what they ask for and basically give them the keys to the register.
Right.
So I think this is a great move to protect employees. But to Jonathan's point, you have a lot of operational benefits. And then from a futures focused standpoint, it's heading towards cashless. So it's definitely a first mover.
I have a question, you guys. Okay. One, I have a problem with there still being cash accepted inside if safety, like Jonathan's saying, is really the concern. Because aren't you still putting the associates then that are working inside the store in danger? Because now that's where all the cash is going. It's not separated by drive-through window and like checkout lane.
It's a little bit of a conflict too, because if you're accepting inside, you don't avoid the operational efficiency of not having a cash drop.
Exactly. Well, and then
it feels like it's a first step. It's like the first line of defense is let's do it outside. Let's see how that goes.
See the impact.
That does not have a negative impact on our business, let's then do it inside. And that sounds like also they're dancing around the governmental issues that Chris was bringing up too, like kind of testing the waters.
Right. That's a great point.
And lastly, like, again, I'm going back to where do we best serve the human workforce in quick service restaurants? The cash thing for me too is like, is it not possible to still take cash through some kind of cash, in like machine? Like, can't you just put cash in, dispense the change? Like, I feel like there's technology that should be able to support this so that you can still take cash, you can take cards, but you're removing the safety, or you're considering the safety of the people working in that restaurant so that they don't have to handle the money or be the go or the in between there in those situations. It doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't know. There's a lot of operational hangups that come with any of that stuff too. You know, like having to put cash into. I mean, how many times have we put the cash in the dispenser and it comes back like bill cannot be read? Like we've all been through that nightmare. And imagine that in a drive-through too. That scenario would be unmanageable if you stop and think about it. So as easy as it sounds, I think the point that we come back to, it feels like to me, like I agree with you guys. Like it's first step. We'll see where it goes next.
Right.